Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a look at the astrological transits for September 25th to October 1st. We've been in a recovery mode for quite some time. At the beginning of September, I said a good portion of September is going to feel like an energetic hangover, and we've all been dealing with effects of an energetic hangover until parts of this last week. There was a bit of a sobering effect after the sun left its opposition to Neptune. In one way, we felt those areas of disconnect, and we felt hard moments of not being able to focus. We lost track of our days. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, it was just Monday. It's Friday. What? Where the hell did the week go? Did I get up every day this week? Did I do shit every day this week? Like, wow, where did this week go? We were having an issue with focusing. We were having an issue with certain connections. We could not focus, no matter how hard we tried. There was some level of disconnect. Some of us had things revealed. We had very fortunate decisions that got made this last week. And we've been able to finally get to a point where we can tell off the boss. Some of us did. And we did it on Friday. Some of us had other effects that came through. We saw the effects of certain things on certain people. And that was the Sun Neptune also. We saw how people were having an issue with their medication. We saw different people have different kinds of reactions, unexpected reactions, because Neptune's a dick. I am a Pisces moon, and I still maintain that. I keep having in my meditation that I won't be saying that for much longer, but I haven't seen the thing that makes me not say that anymore. So until then, Neptune's a dick. There are elements to the energy that we needed to see the other side of something. We needed to wait for that decision. We needed to wait for that reaction. We needed to be more aware of how the medicine was affecting us. Some of us, it wasn't us, it was the elder. The elders. Some of us had to deal with authority figures this last week. We had to deal with the boss. We had to tell the boss certain things. We pissed him off. Oh well. They'll live. And if they don't, maybe you should be the boss. Maybe you should go find a different boss. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. After we regained our ability to focus, and the sun went into Libra, awareness, dreams, information, the ability to talk about certain things, certain inclinations and realizations that came through, we became aware of something. And over the course of the weekend, for many of us, that awareness allowed for grounding. We felt productive. We felt good. We felt solid. Other people didn't feel so good. They felt disrupted. Because when Mars went over that activation point where some of us was able to slide into the places of where we're meant to go because we did get that job offer. We did get those levels of communication. We did make those connections. We did do something that was positive for us on the other side. Not everybody liked the effects. And what happened over the weekend was energies tied to disruption and discord. Fears sunk in. Some of us, we were vibing all weekend. We went out, we went shopping, got our nails done, our toes done. Obviously, I haven't... Even when I do, this is still like my power color, so I always like go for the blues and the greens and the turquoise stuff. So there was shopping, there was productiveness, there was cleaning, there was organizing, there was putting things together. And for some people, there was vibing and reconnection. We went out for karaoke. We went to that barbecue. We ran into somebody from our past. Some of it was good, some of it was bad. a lot of the energy that was meant to take us forward kind of came through over the last weekend. And I think that really speaks a lot to how the sun, retracing the same transit steps that Mars had done the month before, it made us aware in a whole different level. It made it easier to get through the fog, especially if you understood that that's what the fog was. We were able to recognize issues. We recognized the effects. Some of us, we're not dealing with big things with boss and fraud and manipulation and everything. We're not dealing with the full aspect of like societal things. We're dealing with health. Many of us seen the effects. We recognized a different effect in the medicine. We felt a different effect in our body. We've been feeling something in our stomach. We've been feeling something in our spine, and we've been able to kind of work through it a little bit. We loosened up some. Not so tense in the shoulders. Some of us, the tense energy that was in the shoulders and the spine and everything else, that's been like pressurizing us down. We didn't even realize that it was an energetic hold. Some people, the sun's opposition to Neptune was a loss, and it was an unexpected loss. It was an unexpected loss because we didn't know. We didn't know. We didn't know about the vices. We didn't know about what was going on under the surface. We didn't know that there was an illness. We didn't know that they were hurt. We didn't know that they were sick. And that again carries into the awareness that we now have. For some people, Venus showing her ass this summer, and I will maintain that for quite some time. For some people, Venus showing her ass was all about the ego. For other people, it was about women and mothers and wombs and motherhood. There have been things tied to mothers this summer. And we saw a different effect come through in the days leading into the sun going into Libra. We needed to see something. We needed to experience something. We needed to feel something. It was necessary. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I know that gets hard to hear. If this was a good week for you, then you've been vibing. If this last week was a bad week for you, you ain't so happy going into this next week. If we had issues with health and health concerns, there is an awareness that either the medicine has to change, there was a more serious effect from something from the past, a past event, something that happened earlier this spring, that impacted where we are at now, where the health concerns are now. We didn't realize that tumble created a blood clot. We didn't realize that there was a internal healing that didn't happen. And we saw the effect of that. And for some people, that was not a fun effect. I seen that firsthand this week. It was very harsh, very heartbreaking. And it's going to lead to transformations for those people. The next 60 days, 2 months, this last week of September, all of October, and going into November, it's going to be a mixed bag of energy. Things falling away, things leaving, things breaking away to allow the new things to come through. Some of us did purposeful breaks. We know sometimes we have to re-break the bone to make it heal correctly. We did purposeful breaks. Others, it was a sheer accident. We stepped wrong. Fell on our face. Sometimes it's necessary to fall on our face. Not necessarily that we wanted to break our foot doing it, but necessary to fall on our face. As we get into this week, October 25th to October 1st, again, as we get into this week that we're going into, The hangover effect is really gone, at least for a while, until Mercury hits its opposition to Neptune. But there is a lingering energy. There's a motivation coming through. All of us, we've been feeling very, very much like we've been on the cusp of something, and we've been feeling really angsty. We know something's about to happen, but we've been waiting on it to happen, and it hasn't really happened yet. And energetically, the thing is like, there's a trigger to this week. And for some of us, the activation happened over the weekend, going into this new week. In our timeline of getting grounded and feeling solid and feeling good, certain things happen. Certain things that were very, very necessary. How to move my screen. I wanted it at the right place for you guys. There was an arrival of a person. There was an arrival of a situation. There was an arrival of an event. There was an arrival. Some of us got that job offer. And parts of this next week are going to be the plans. The long-term plans. Big portion of this next week will go into long-term energy. And that really it started on Sunday, actually, Sunday evening. I want to remind everybody how Sunday went. Sunday was starting with the trine to Uranus. The moon in Capricorn made a trine to Uranus. Then it squared the nodes, pulled in energy from the Neptune sextile, went into its conjunction with Pluto. And then afterwards, the moon went into Aquarius and trined the sun. The entire time, the sun was in a place where it could not see Saturn directly. We couldn't directly see something with authority. We couldn't directly see something with a boss. We didn't know what was going on the other side. And that speaks volumes if you have just told your boss off. You don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they're going to do. And part of this weekend was letting that realization sink in. And we had to go through fear. We had to go through some triggers. And we had to go through aspects to that. And that will carry parts of the energy into Monday also. We're all in different places, guys. We're all in very different places. Okay. As we get into Monday, our minds will be very, very busy. But I mean, again, like it's going to be like long-term busy. Because the moon all day is going to be in Aquarius. Now, luckily for us, Monday's not a heavy transit day. So if we want to continue to be productive, Monday's a good day for that. Now, there's one aspect that I briefly mentioned on Sunday, but I specifically said I'm going to save this to Monday because I feel like it applies more for Monday, and that is Jupiter in its third trine with Mercury. Now, this goes the most exact at 7:10 a.m. Central Standard Time. For those that are listening to audio only, I have the screen at 7:25 a.m. Central Standard Time, Monday morning. And it just perfected. I'm going to remind everybody of these trines with Mercury and Jupiter. The first one happened back during the new moon. No, it was during the Venus square Uranus new moon square Uranus week, that whole week. That was whenever we had our first Mercury Jupiter trine. Now that one was different. Each one has been different. Jupiter had just got to 15 degrees and was starting to station. Mercury did the trine, but Mercury was in its shadow. So for some of us, we were realizing like, look, I'm getting really tired of their shit. I'm about to change my mind. I'm about to pull back. I'm about to not be a part of something anymore. I am sick of the nonsense. And some of us were starting to pull away, removing support. You guys have heard me say that. In a lot of ways, Mercury was kind of going, I mean, I get it, but I think I'm still going to help. I think I'm still here. I think I'm okay. A little bit longer went by. Mercury turned retrograde. And that happened August 23rd. I told you the wrong date. The new moon in Leo. Okay, so that would have been... Damn it, Dusty. This is a normal thing for me to say. Hey, just damn it, Dusty. So that would have been closer to like the August 15th, 16th time frame, a week before Mercury went retrograde. That was the first Mercury-Jupiter trine. The second one, I know specifically when that one happened. Mercury in retrograde came back into its trine with Jupiter, and right after that trine perfected, Jupiter turned retrograde. That happened on September 4th. Many of us had somebody come back around at the end of the Venus retrograde and the start of the Jupiter retrograde. It was a very necessary energy. There was only a good 12 or 13 hour span between Venus turning direct and Jupiter turning retrograde. That day, for a lot of people, just heralded a turnaround. A turnaround in our own mindset, a turnaround in a situation, a turnaround in how we were dealing with things. Some of us seen other people showing their ass, and suddenly, like, what the turnaround was like, I'm so sick of your shit. And again, withdrawal of support. There was a turn. Mercury was retrograde, and it heralded the start of Jupiter turning retrograde. There was a turn. For many people, right around that beginning of the Jupiter retrograde, there were discussions. For some of us, somebody came back into the situation, came back into reality, came back into the moment. They returned something. They started communicating again. They started doing things again. They came back around. Conversations were had. Mercury needed time to think about that. The reason I say that is because the week that I'm talking about, September 4th, September 6th, September 8th, so it was every other day. September 4th, Jupiter turned retrograde. Mercury was in a trine to Jupiter. 2 days later, we had the Mercury Cazimi. That was again on the 6th. 2 days later, the Sun hit its trine to Jupiter. For many people, there was a series of discussions. There was a series of ideas. There were certain things that happened that after the Sun trine to Jupiter, things got quiet because we needed to think about it. We needed to stew. We needed to get our bearings straight. We had the refresher of prior things, had prior information there. And afterwards, we needed time to get our head about it. And little by little, some of those people that needed to get clear have slowly came back around, but I feel like more of them will come back around going into this week. You had those conversations. You said what you needed to say. You didn't treat me right. You didn't do this. You weren't doing what you said you were going to do, and I'm sick of your shit. And some people right around this time are going to come back around going, you know what? I did not do the right thing for you. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I wasn't this person. And I will do better. I need to do better. And we start taking steps in healing. We start restoring certain things. Now I'm going to remind everybody with the Mercury-Jupiter aspects here. After this trine, the next time Mercury and Jupiter are going to have any type of connection will be during the full moon eclipse in Taurus. Mercury doesn't have any transit that touches Jupiter while going through Libra. And the next one will also be whenever we have our first Mars conjunction. It's the Mars-Mercury conjunction. There's something about the 25th and this week, because between the 25th and the full moon in Aries that's going to happen this week, that feels like it's going to directly lead into what happens in eclipse season. We start having a certain conversation. Where's the moon in Aquarius? So we have some long-term conversations, big picture conversations. We want to make sure we got our facts straight. We want to make sure we're getting the story straight. We're wanting to get our information straight. We want to understand the things that we don't know, the things that we haven't been privy to, the things that we have not been aware of in some time. The internal activation of Mars of last week is going to start to have a real world effect by the time we get to Monday. Some of us, we've already felt it. We've either had downloads, things in our meditation. We've suddenly had epiphanies and ideas. Didn't even realize that that's what it was, but that's what it was. We reactivated something internally, and in this week and next week, we start to activate things externally. There's a conversation. This conversation, for some of us, it started over the weekend while the moon was still in Capricorn. For others, it's going to happen on Monday and Tuesday. Now, as the day progresses, again, there's not a lot of heavy energy in the sense of like the transits whenever it comes to Monday. There's not it's not a heavy transit day, but we do have some serious, arguably heavy conversations. Now, later in the day, the most exact between 5 p.m. and 7:30 p.m., the moon is going to make this square to Jupiter after Jupiter just had its trine with Mercury. So you're talking to the old boyfriend, you're talking to the old girlfriend, you're talking to an old co-worker that's letting you know, hey, there's an opening over here. There's possibilities over here. Or you let somebody know that you're going another direction. Mercury is direct, Jupiter is retrograde. So sometimes this conversation is about parting ways, but it's amicable because it's a trine and not a square. So an amicable of parting of ways. Not everything has to be the worst thing in the world. Sometimes you can just look at a person and go, I've outgrown you. And that can happen. Some people, we just learned about something and we're talking to another person. We're getting their input. We're finding out what they think of it. And there can be some real challenging, but this doesn't feel terrible. There can be a challenging conversation to Monday evening because the moon is going to hit this square to Jupiter. Part of it could be challenging Jupiter to what just happened with Mercury, to how the day has gone, or it's telling somebody else how the day has gone. And then, of course, they're just questioning, well, what are you going to do? So questions, challenges. I don't feel frustration quite yet, but that doesn't mean there might not be something boiling under the surface. Sometimes we don't start to really realize we're mad about something until the shock wears off. Now, the thing about this week is our minds are going to be very busy. The shock wears off, and what do we start to do? We start to overthink. We just sit there and stew and try to get something in our heads figured out, and we can't necessarily do it in the overnight hours going into the 26th, so going into Tuesday. The moon is going to trine Mars. Immediately after that, the moon is going to oppose Venus. And immediately after that, the moon is going to square Uranus. This is not the full moon. However, if you know those people that work overnight hours, this is not going to be a fun overnight for them. This will feel like a full moon, and it's not going to be. There can be some stewing and overthinking, like that shock has wore off, like you've had more time to think about and process whatever has occurred over Monday. And as the moon hits that trine to Mars, you're just like, they were really about to fuck me over. They were really about to leave. Like, this is really about to happen. We ain't happy about it. And in some ways, we're trying to find a workaround. We're trying to find a different solution. And when moon hits that opposition to Venus, there's another level of an activation here that I feel like ties to the full moon. But there can be some tension and some arguments as we get into Tuesday. Some of those long-term conversations, some of the things that got had that didn't initially feel like a shock to the system, that over the evening and we got to thinking about it and we got to over processing the situation, we can't shut our minds off. And when I'm telling you, Monday and Tuesday, we're not shutting our minds off. We're not overthinking, over processing, just reeling and reeling and reeling and reeling. That can lead to some challenges. That can lead to tension. We can go into the office on Tuesday and be super frustrated. Nurses and people that work overnight, so like people that work in the convenience stores, I always go with nurses, tow truck drivers, things that, truck drivers in general, like the overnight aspects. There can be a lot of things that happen. And one way we feel like we've got something worked through, Mars is going to trine the moon. But immediately we talk to another person, we realize there's a challenge. For some people, when the moon hits that trine to Mars, it's going to be talking about some of the things from the weekend. Again, some of those disruptions. And we're getting two different stories. And the thing is, by the time we get to later in the day, we'll realize it's more than two. That it's multiple. And we got to decipher who told the truth and who didn't. The moon's going to trine Mars the most exact between 1:30 and 4:30 in the morning. The moon's opposition to Venus will be the strongest between 2:30 a.m. and 5 a.m. So whenever I have it on the screen right here, we're going into that hour that is the strongest. Not all of us are going to be dealing with something in the middle of the night. Some of us will be, but not everybody. We can get those calls unexpectedly that something has happened, that there has been a disruption. We can feel those types of things. And as the day progresses, the moon will enter its square to Uranus. Now, this goes the most exact between 7:30 and 9 a.m. That's whenever it's the strongest. So we're right before it goes exact here at the 7:25 mark. After the moon square to Uranus, the moon is going to go void. So we wake up Tuesday morning super irritated because we didn't sleep, because our mind was going all night. People are going to be cranky. People are going to have a chip on their shoulder. People are going to have an attitude. People are also starting to feel a buildup deep inside. They're getting frustrated. They're getting tense. They're getting antsy. Anxiety is spiking. Frustrations are spiking. Attitudes are spiking. What's wrong with you? I don't know. We're getting really close to the full moon. They might not know, but y'all can know. After the moon square to Uranus, the moon goes void for the majority of the day. And when I say the majority, I mean like the moon does not go into Pisces until 12 hours after this. So for those that are listening to audio only, I have the screen at 7:25 a.m. Central Standard Time, and the moon is just in that square to Uranus. After this moment, for the next 12 hours, basically, the moon goes void. It ain't gonna be doing much. That means, for a lot of people, it's going to be hard to be productive. It's going to be hard to do certain things and deal with certain things. This energy definitely speaks a lot to productiveness. And if we can't be productive, if we feel like everything is a challenge, you come into the office and suddenly all the IT stuff is down, like the whole network is down, nobody can get their stuff to work, and we spend the whole day waiting for the cable guy to come back and turn the internet back on or fix it or rewire something, waiting for the IT department to catch up, waiting for the bosses to come out of a meeting, waiting for some type of a decision, knowing that there is an angst. because there is an angst in the energy. It's just, you feel angsty. You can't shake it. You know something's coming. You feel it in your bones. Whatever happens first thing on the morning of Tuesday, September 26th, pretty well carries us through the entire day. So if we've been vibing, this can be really helpful. I don't feel a whole lot of vibe. I feel when we get to Tuesday, I feel that vibration, which feels anxious. We can't sit still. We can't focus. When are they going to come out of the damn conference room? I don't know. How long have they been in there? 4 hours. What is going on? I don't know. Some of us might not know on Tuesday. We just know something's going on. We know there's conversations being had. We know something's going on in the next room. We know we need to deal with something. We know something's coming. There's about to be a change. We're going into transition energy. There's an angstiness to Tuesday. Teenage angst, but in all forms. Some of us were waiting to hear from the doctor. Some of us were waiting to hear the news. We're waiting to see how the surgery did. We're waiting. And it's frustrating. It's annoying. And as the day progresses, we finally get into the evening time. And again, the moon is going to change signs right before it did here, about 10 minutes before. Moon goes into Pisces roughly 7, is that a 9 or 4? I did my bet. 7:19 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sorry, sometimes I get to scribbling. The moon enters Pisces. Whatever happens by the end of the day, if we don't have the answer immediately, that means we're going to get the answer the next day. And because we don't know what happened in the conference room, we don't know what the conversations have been, we don't know the full output, we don't know if there's a full success, because if we just had to have a surgery, I don't know why I just picked up a surgery, but I did. If we just had to have a surgery, if we just had to do something in the medical office, if we just had to go do a set of like scans because something was going wrong in the stomach and something's been going wrong in our intestines, if we just did that, then by the time we get to the end of the day, what we can be finding out is that, okay, we need time to review and they need to go through observations. So we don't know. We don't know if everything's okay. We don't know if something's stuck. We don't know. We're waiting. We've been waiting. And if you find out by the end of the day that you're not going to get the answer that day, it's going to put a weight into the emotions. The moon is going to make this conjunction to Saturn very late in the evening, so this goes exact mostly between 9 and 11:30 p.m. But really, the moon is going to start its conjunction immediately. And considering we've just had so many things regarding the elders, the authority figures, the bosses, this right here can make us feel impatient. Some of us, we did hear something and we're stuck in our feelings. We don't know how we're going to deal with it. We don't know what's going to happen next. We realize that we're getting closer to something. We're getting closer to a timing aspect. We're getting closer to the end. We're getting closer to a situation. For some of us, we're going home and we're just talking to our parents. We're talking to somebody else that we would consider an authority figure. Like, hey, whenever you used to work here, like, what did you think? I know you've been gone like 2 years and I've still been here for 15 because I keep wanting to use the same number. Like, what do you remember? How did you deal with it? What did you do? How did you respond? For some of us, we are showing up to the hospital and we're seeing that elder. We got the call a few days ago and now we realize that something is worse than what we thought. And this whole last few days has been waiting. The moon conjunct Saturn. It's an arrival It's a connection. It's a meeting. It's a run-in with the authority figure, a run-in with somebody who we would view as an authority figure in their field. It's not always our authority figure, like I've said before. It's a run-in with the elder. It's taking responsibility. It's dealing with a responsibility. It's seeing somebody else's responsibilities. We got a verdict in. And now we're dealing with the consequence. We have to face something. A lot of people, we realize that we're not seeing everything right then. We're realizing the effect of something from the week before, the reveal of something from the week before, hasn't truly set in until Tuesday evening. Because again, we had to go through the shock, and then we had to go through the reaction. We go into the tension, we go into the frustration, we go into the erraticness. There's an erraticness to the earlier parts of Tuesday. And then by the time you get home, you're just exhausted. You're mentally exhausted. You're emotionally exhausted. You're telling somebody about what happened with the authority figure. You're telling somebody something that they didn't know. You're telling somebody about a reaction to something that was not anticipated. I thought everything was fine, and it's not. There's a part of Tuesday evening that can speak back to some of the decisions and ideas that happened the week before in the Sun-Neptune opposition. We're talking about what's been revealed. We're talking about the effect of something. We're dealing with something. There is a weight to the energy once we get to Tuesday evening. After the moon goes through its conjunction with Saturn, we get into Wednesday. The moon will be in Pisces all day long. There's not a whole lot transit-wise whenever it comes to the moon going through Pisces. It's a pretty low-key day. And it kind of speaks into like how we deal with stuff as we go into the day. We feel the cloud, we feel the fog, we feel the weight, we feel uneasy, solemn, melancholic, like we're in a bowl of water. There's something that happens in these few days that afterwards we're sunk into emotion. We're sunk into something deep inside. We're feeling a weight. We're feeling something building up. We're feeling a shift. We're seeing a shift. But the shift that we're seeing, we can't stop it. We can't fix it. We can't help it. We can't do something about it because it's not our thing to do. There's a lot of emotion that starts to come through. Some of that emotion for some people is going to come in Tuesday evening. For a lot more people, it's going to sink in on Wednesday. Now, as we get into the afternoon, that's really when we get to our first transit, and that's going to happen the most exact between 5:30 and 8 p.m. And what's going to happen is the moon is going to hit a sextile to Jupiter. I finally heard something. I talked to the doctor earlier. I talked to the instructor. I talked to the boss. I talked to our buddy. Talked to somebody. There's a glimmer of hope. Not much of one. How's everything going with Mom? I don't know yet. She's still asleep. Everything's been okay so far. She's still asleep. How's Grandpa? Still asleep. And as the evening progresses, right at midnight, so for some people, there's going to be some conversations regarding like trying to put emotions aside and face something from a logical standpoint, or we're going to have these interactions either late in the evening on Wednesday or early on Thursday. It kind of depends on time zone. For me, this is going to go the most exact right after midnight, and that is the moon is going to hit this opposition to Mercury. So again, for some people, the human effect. The sextile with Jupiter kind of almost reactivates some elements of the Mercury-Jupiter trine. So some elements to Wednesday evening might feel like it ties back to, again, Monday. But considering how this week is going, would not surprise me at all. We're talking about emotions, and then we're talking about logic. So sometimes you're going to have two people that are having conversations, and one person's trying to, deal with their emotions. Like, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want them to lose their job. I didn't mean for this to happen. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then the other person's like, it's not your responsibility to fix other people's things. It's not your responsibility to deal with those decisions. And if you're coming from the emotional standpoint, trying to talk to somebody in a logical aspect, it's not that they're wrong. Not everybody's going to be good with processing it. Like, I don't want to hear this right now. Okay. But it's still not your fault. It's not your job to do with these things. We're building up towards something. And a lot of this week feels like it's like the stages of grief as we build up to the full moon, but not everybody's going through grief, but we are going through some stages. Sometimes it's that stage, those stages we go through tied to grief, but like it's after the breakup. And sometimes that breakup is what's going on with the boss. For some people, we spend all of Wednesday like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I don't know. And we're in a fog again. We're in a haze. We shouldn't have to be in a haze. Some of us were seeing the effect of what was revealed last week. But there feels like there's a distraction energy or this inability to focus because of what was just announced, what has just occurred. Some of us, we get the announcement first thing Wednesday morning because the decision, they finally came out of the conference room after 10 hours and everybody went home. So we didn't get the actual decision, the announcement level of the energy until the next day. And then after that announcement, and after whatever has just occurred, after whatever thing hit, like we froze. We didn't know what we were quite up to. There's this odd sense of energy. It's surreal. Fishbowl. I always think fishbowl for some reason when I think surreal. You feel like everything you do, you just hit a wall. You can see opportunity, but you can't get over there. You can see something's going on, but you can't impact it because you're in the bowl. Just watching. There's a surreal energy. For a lot of us, we are just watching. We're just watching on Wednesday. We're waiting for something. We feel like it. There is this anticipation energy all throughout the week that keeps building. And it can make us very, very frustrated. Some of us were going to get into the later evenings of Wednesday. Like I said, when the moon hits this opposition to Mercury, we're going to be wanting to have logical conversations, but they're coming from an emotional level. We're trying to use logic to reason with somebody who's reacting emotionally. Like, it's going to be okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. Let them go through their emotions. Whether it is going to be or isn't going to be okay. Sometimes you just have to let people do their emotional purge. Let them work through their shit. Some people, they just know something's going to happen the next day. It's like, I just feel it. I just feel like this is about to happen. I just feel like something's going to go wrong. I just feel it. Now again, the moon-Mercury opposition, it goes the most exact around midnight. So some of us were having late night conversations. The human effect, we might be just having them around dinner time. Some of us, we're not going to have these conversations until the next morning. We just, internally, we know. Emotion over logic. We've thought ourselves into a corner in some way. And we just know that we're going to have to go into something the next day that we're not anticipating. Now, as we get deeper into Thursday, I'm going to get to the very certain point, and then I'm going to leave it alone for a while. And that is roughly around early morning. So we're roughly around 8:30. The moon is going to make a sextile to Uranus. There's been a very Uranian quality throughout the week. There's a very Uranian quality to the energy that we're going to go into the new month. It is erratic. It is shaky. I hate saying the word groundbreaking because I feel like it implies something else. But when I say groundbreaking now, I mean like feeling like you're on unsteady ground, hollow ground, shaky ground. This is what it kind of feels like. We're struggling. We're angsty. We're feeling something. We are feeling something coming around. And there can be some emotional outbursts that kind of start to come through on Thursday. Because the thing is, Thursday overnight into Friday is when the full moon is. If we are having a lot of emotional things come through between Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday, some of this can be recapping things that go back to the Pisces full moon the month before. And that was exact on April 30th. August 30th. Wrong A. August 30th. That's when that one was. There's a big part of the energy this week that does feel like it ties back to that August 30th to September 4th date, that we're bringing some things tied to that full circle as we continue this week. And then it's going to kind of be an energy that launches us forward. When the moon hits the sextile to Uranus, maybe we've been waiting for 2 days for our internet to get restored. And this is just one of those things of like, oh yeah, I got this all fixed. Your phone screen has been replaced. We put all new stuff up. I'm sorry you broke your keyboard. Here's a new one. Sometimes we do that. As the day progresses, the moon is going to hit this conjunction to Neptune and then go into a sextile with Pluto. So the moon Neptune goes the most exact between 12 and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can see we're just past it at 1:25 right here. And then between 2:30 and 5 is whenever the Pluto sextile will be the strongest. So in some elements, this makes me think, what happened on Sunday in that activation energy? Because this can be the next part. In some ways, we can just be sitting there and having lunch with somebody, and it's somebody from the past, and you're just talking about old things. Like you ran into somebody from college, somebody came back through, and you're just sitting there like, yeah, I want to totally like sit down and talk about things. And again, we're in this revealing energy. For some people, when the moon hits that conjunction to Neptune, there's going to be an effect in the body, an effect in the mind, an effect in the nervous system. That effect can just be a knowing. That twinge in your spine, like we just know something and we're feeling it. Some people, this is the reveal when the moon hits the conjunction to Neptune. That we finally reveal something that has been brewing all week. And that's going to lead to things that's going to happen on Friday and Saturday. Now, there's something else that's going to start on the 21st. And that's going to be Mars at 21 degrees. And I will put more emphasis on this as we go into the full moon video and the future video that will happen. But I want to bring up something that's going on right here. And there is something about the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th, so the full moon in Aries timeline, that feels like it's a part of the activation that starts the tie-in of the Venus retrograde to eclipse season. And I feel like it starts right here. Why? Let's talk transit-wise for a minute. Uranus and Venus are going to start their third and final square this week. First one happened back at the beginning of July, roughly around the Capricorn full moon time frame. So between the 1st and the 5th. I'm giving a bigger range of dates there. I think the full moon was on the 3rd. It was definitely not on 4th of July. So full moon roughly around the 3rd. And that was right around the time that we had the Venus-Uranus square. The second one happened, again, the middle of August. And it included the new moon and the sun. And there was all sorts of things going on. So there was a lot of Uranian energy there. And at that time, Uranus was still direct. But now Uranus is retrograde. And again, there can be this element of like withdrawn support. Some of us might not know everybody that has had support withdrawn. And I mean, like, not everybody has said and came out with, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. There is an element that is coming through that feels like we're going to, one, let other people know we're not doing something anymore. This isn't going to go the same way anymore. It's like in a spontaneous, yeah, like I ain't fucking with you no more. Like that type of energy. In other ways, there can be a sudden secret that comes through. But the biggest part that I want to get into that I feel like really is going to do the tie-in is Mars. Me and my little activation points. If they apply to September, I'm keeping them in September. If they apply to October, I've been keeping them to October. Here's the next activation point. But this is not a new activation. Well, this is not an old activation point. This is a new one. In a lot of ways, I've said before, like there's been things that have been coming through that are going to activate later. Here's one of them. As we continue through Thursday and continue into the full moon, that's going to happen overnight and Friday. Mars, the ruler of this full moon, Mars, that's in a sextile with Venus, is going to be going over the next eclipse point. So let me say that again. During the full moon in Aries, the ruler of the full moon, Mars, will be activating our new moon in Libra eclipse point that's going to happen on October 14th. There are elements to this week and this week's full moon that feels like they directly feed into what's going to happen in eclipse season. All week feels like we're building up to it. When the moon hits this conjunction to Neptune, for a lot of people, this is going to be a reveal. For a lot of people, there was a trigger, an actual trigger, something bodily trigger, a trigger in another person. There was something that activated over the weekend going into this week. And I said that was specific to Sunday. That activation is leading into some of the things of the full moon for a lot of people. Not everybody per se, but for a lot of people. The moon is going to make this conjunction to Neptune, and then literally Neptune will no longer be at 26 degrees. So we're going back even further in Neptune's energy. And we're about to go back to 25. And this is where I'm going to start to really bring up the connections of March. There will be things, I'll do more of the connection at the end. There will be things, seeds that were planted from March, specifically the shit show transit week of the Sun, Mercury, Neptune, triple conjunction, squaring Mars in Gemini. There are elements to this part of the transit that pulls from another timeline and will push into a future timeline. Transitional energy. We might not recognize the full effects that are kicking in quite yet. It might not actually be fully recognized until next week, the middle of next week. But there are elements here. We can get something, we can have something, we can decide to do something unexpected that has a full effect. And it will lead to things that are going to take place throughout eclipse season. This is a wild card energy, this moon and Neptune, and then Mars going over this upcoming eclipse point tells me another level of activation. So Venus, Uranus are going to start their square in the afternoon. You can see that right here. Venus hit 22, Uranus is at 22. It is going to actually go exact on Friday after the full moon. There is high emotions, anxieties, fear. We've been trying to get something going all week. It hasn't gone through, or we've been waiting to hear news all week. We've been waiting to hear a decision all week, and it hasn't come through. We've been waiting to see the effect of something all week, and it hasn't come through. But in other ways, we're waiting to see something manifest. Because not everybody's going to have a terrible full moon. I'm going to be clear about that. Now you can see in the later parts of the evening, specifically at 7:18 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon's going to go into Aries. So we see that right here. And all through the overnight hours, the moon is going to go into the full moon, not eclipse, but sure as shit feels like one right here. Now I want to bring up this moon, this full moon, is in one of those hidden transits with Neptune. There is some element here that whatever happens when the moon-Neptune conjunction happened earlier on Thursday, on the 28th, that it leads to the events in the full moon. Like whatever comes to the surface, whatever gets revealed, whatever happens, leads to an immediate either completion or level up. This full moon, it's a mixed bag. For some people, it is going to be a completion that will knock one thing out of the way, that will move into level up energy as we get into October and eclipse season and the rapidness that will be in October. For other people, this is the bang. This is the ending. This is these final moments. Some people are going to get laid off. Some people are going to have, I'm going to say the raids. There's that Neptune element. I've been picking up those substance ties to them, so there can be a raid. Be really interested to see what happens, like news-wise. And if you guys see these types of articles, put them in the comments or send them to me through like Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp. Like, I like to see them. I like to see the elements and the tie-ins because it allows for me to put a lot more things together. But there is this energy that literally it leads to this full moon's effect. It leads to this. We had this unintended energy when the moon hit the conjunction to Neptune. We saw the effect. We saw something happen, and it leads into this type of emotion. And there are the two most emotional elements are water and fire. But there's two very, very different effects of water and fire. Water emotions are the wounds. They are the things that need to be cleansed. They need to be healed. Even earth and stone can be reshaped by water. It smooths it out. It wears it down. It takes away the sharp edges. However, Mars is the god of war. Aries is a fire sign. Those sharp edges can be forged into weapons. There is a passion. There is a determination. There are actions and reactions that are going to launch us forward. And for a lot of people, that's going to come through between Thursday and Friday. Something gets revealed, something gets decided upon, something happens, we see the effect of something, there's a raid, and it is not anticipated. Now there's the other reason there's a not so anticipated energy is because Uranus and this square with Venus, this happens while we're going through the full moon's energy. Now, the full moon actually perfects at 4:58 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm not that far off of it right here at 4:25 a.m. I'm just not moving everything by minute, so it's close enough for government work. We have the full moon right here in Aries. A few hours later, roughly, I say few. To me, it's always a few. By lunchtime, we get to Venus and Uranus in their square. Now, this goes the most exact around 1 p.m. I've got it at 12:25. It's pretty close right here. So as the day is progressing, we're getting sudden shifts, sudden pushes. But the suddenness has Uranus retrograde. So the sudden energy also has a withdrawal to it. Also has a turning away, also has a turning back. Some people are going to be like, oh my God, did you hear about so-and-so? Did you talk to so-and-so? I'm like, why the hell are you talking to me? Why did you call me? Some people, they're going to have something come through and it's going to be so crazy that they're going to have that instinct to call somebody that they haven't talked to in a long time. And it almost like breaks a barrier. It breaks through a wall. Like, look, I know you need to know this. Something happened with grandpa. Something happened with mom. Something happened. And you need to know. Even if we don't immediately tell them in this moment, it's very likely we're going to end up telling them as we get into the weekend. When I was meditating on the full moon in Aries this morning, I was hearing a very specific song. And that is an older song from the 90s. It's by the Fugees. It's called Ready or Not. There's something about this full moon in Aries. Ready or not, here we come. Here it comes. Here I come. The actual verse is here I come, but not everything's about the individual. There can be sudden, abrupt actions. Sudden things come through. Unexpected things come through. But we can also start to finally get some stories set straight. And that gets spoken by Mercury. Right here. Why do I say that? Mercury turned retrograde at 21 degrees. Following that, when Mercury turned direct, like within the same 24-hour span, there was a new moon in Virgo at 21 degrees. And now Mercury is back at its point of shadow during this full moon energy. Oh, we about to have a lot of action and a lot of progress and a lot of getting some stories straight. There's going to be revelation and things being revealed on an extra level this week whenever the moon hits that conjunction to Neptune. There is something that comes through. Now, not everybody is going to understand the come through element on Friday. More people are going to be dealing with the immediate reaction energy of the full moon and the sudden abruptness between Uranus's square to Venus. Again, there is something about this energy that feels like it directly feeds into where we start to do things in the new moon. And that is mainly spoken by the fact that Mars is at the Libra eclipse point right here. There is disruption, pivotal disruption, chaotic disruption, Mars level shit. And then Mars, of course, rules this full moon. But Mars is also going to get really close to this south node. We're very, very aware of something that's about to shift and something that's about to change, something that is about to manifest in a lot of ways. Now, we're going to keep moving the day along. Transit-wise, there's not a lot of transits to Friday. The full moon perfects really, really early. The Venus-Uranus square perfects, 12:58 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then there's not a lot going on. So whatever happened while the moon was in Pisces, like it arrives to this level of reaction. And these levels of reaction come with actions. Now, we ain't going to be going to sleep real fast. It's not going. This is going to be one of those nights. There's going to be a lot of activity. Now, for some people, they're going to be vibing. They're going to be celebrating. And if people are celebrating, you let them celebrate. There is some type of announcement type energy that goes into Saturday morning. So right now on the screen, I have everything. It's at September 30th, 7:25 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we've got a couple things going on the screen. One, Venus is leaving her square to Uranus, but it's still less than a degree apart, so we're still in this abrupt, sudden energy. However, we have something else going on, and that is Uranus is going to finally have a trine to Mercury. So let's go back to that new moon in Virgo time frame. We had the new moon in Virgo. I was on Thursday evening, Friday afternoon, Mercury turned direct. So I said that there were certain things that were going on in that new moon that were leading to a turnaround. And then all weekend, the sun was going through a trine with Uranus. When Mercury stationed for retrograde, it stationed at 21 degrees, but Uranus was at 23. So we were like really close to like some level of like breakthrough or breakout or some type of announcement, and then something stopped us. It stopped us from doing something. It stopped us from moving forward. We didn't want to move forward with a certain person anymore. We were tired of somebody's shit. And the turnaround happened, and it was a part of all the turns that was a part of August. Mercury is going to finally enter a trine with Uranus. There's something that we have been anticipating, some type of acknowledgement that we've wanted to do. There is something about that Venus-Uranus square the day before that leads to an announcement. It leads to more transition. Uranus is in a trine to Mercury simultaneously at 7:25 in the morning. Yeah, I know, bright and early. Everybody had their coffee, right? I'm drinking my cold coffee now. It's not warm anymore. Simultaneously, the moon is going to hit this opposition to Mars. And it's going to be really, really close to the nodes. Action, activation, decisions, movement, transition. We had an ending, we had a completion, or we had a level up. There is an action here. There is movement here. There can also be tensions here. And one way we're telling somebody something that just occurred that can be really, really helpful. But on the other side, you're like, so what do we do next? Some people are going to be a little combative because we're pissed. We didn't have a good week. And the moon's opposition to Mars can be dealing with somebody else's frustration. The other side of this, because not everybody has to be argumentative and fighting all the time, there can be guidance here. Helpful energy. And when I'm saying guidance, I'm more along the lines of like, the moon is in Mars' sign. Mars is in Venus' sign. Arguably, you can say Mars has more matured. I don't want to, for this example, go with mature. Just go, for this example, go with mature. When you got laid off, how did you deal with it? When you had these sudden situations happen, how did you deal with it? Whenever you saw your brother get arrested or get raided, like, how did you deal with it? It's talking about somebody else who's talking to somebody else who's been in a similar position. The moon is in Mars' sign, while Mars is on the other side of the chart. Some people, you're in somebody's home and you're trying to do something for them. You're like, okay, I'm trying to find, I'm trying to pack your bag. I know you need extra stuff there. Where do you get, where's your spare bags? Where's this? Like you're going through somebody else's house going, and you're getting guidance through the phone. Like, okay, you can go here, you go here, you go here, you go here. And then there's going to be travel involved with the Mercury trine to Uranus. There is action in this energy. Now, after the moon's opposition to Mars, the moon is going to make a conjunction to the North Node. And again, there are elements to what we're going into that feel very, very fated. And I'm going to keep saying that for a while. Mercury and Uranus's trine actually goes more exact while the moon is making its conjunction to the North Node. We are talking to people about things. We are telling people about things that they didn't know about. And not everybody's having a fun time do it. And some people are going to feel very, very challenged. And that kind of kicks in into the afternoon. Between 3:30 and 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit this square to Pluto. And I am asking you what happened last weekend on Sunday when the moon hit that conjunction to Pluto, because I really do feel like that was an activation that carried through this entire week. Now the moon is going to hit this square to Pluto. There is a questioning of the past, how something was dealt with. There is a challenge in certain ways. There is a trigger for a lot of people. It's a trigger happy weekend. Happy is not necessarily the word you should be using, but there's definitely an effect. There can be some tensions and some argument. We're very, very busy. We're wanting to do something. We're wanting to take an action. In some ways, we're getting support with Uranus's trine to Mercury. In other ways, we're coming to the conclusion that we have no other choice but to do something different. For some of us, we have still not wanted to make the decision to move forward. The last 2 weeks have been about making the decision. We went through the process of interviewing with other companies. We went through the process of submitting applications and going into interviews. We went through the process of something. Some people actively made decisions to progress. But some of us are stubborn. And we didn't want to make those decisions. And we kept putting our head down and we kept thinking, everything's going to be okay. I just got to write it out. It's not like I haven't wrote out shit before. I just got to put my head down, mouth shut, head down, mouth shut. Just write it out. And then something happens this week and you don't get the chance to write it out because there's a layoff. There's a downsizing. There's a flurry of activity. This can be a trigger of fear. This can be a reaction that belts out. And we've all been in those situations, or we've seen other people in those situations, to where you've had so many bad things going on, but you haven't been able to talk about it. You haven't been able to work through it. You haven't been able to deal with certain things. You've been trekking along all week, and then you suddenly something hits you wrong. They say something wrong, not even trying to, and it's just what came out was 5 years worth of anger. and not even all the anger that you have with this person, but all of a sudden they just took the brunt of everything. That can happen. That can be a part of the energy on Saturday. Tensions and frustrations and reactions and venting and voicing it out. And oh, I know you're mad. Go away. Go to the garage. Go Freaking find something to tinker with. Go get it out. Go get your aggression out. Go do something else. There can be a challenge. There can be a effect. And for some people, that effect can have to do with the elders again. Why? Because Pluto's in Capricorn. And after the Pluto Moon square right here, the moon will go void. So we belt out our reaction. We're super mad, just rah! And then as the day continues, the moon will go void. You go breathe. You go to the garage. You throw some stuff around. You hit the heavy bag. You do what you have to do. And you settle your shit down. And once we get into the evening time, the moon's going to go into Taurus. Now, this goes exact at 8:18 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is when the moon will change signs. It'll go into Taurus. And for a brief moment, something will start to settle down. We're not as reactive. It takes some time. And as the evening progresses, the moon is going to hit this sextile to Saturn. This is talking about responsibility. If you just blew up on somebody earlier in the day, you finally hit your wall and you just had to, because we all do that. Sometimes I call it growling. Sometimes you just go the fuck off. I feel like there's going to be some high going off emotions to Friday and Saturday. There'll be a lot of activity and a lot of busyness. People are going to be out and doing things. Some people are just going to be having fun, and you're going to see other people reacting crazy. But then once we get into the evening time, the moon's going to go into Saturn. The moon's going to go into Taurus, and it's going to enter the sextile with Saturn. I shouldn't have talked to you that way earlier. I shouldn't have lost my temper. I shouldn't have acted that way earlier. I wasn't in a good place. I've had a rough week. I've had some rough things going on. It's a very viable way that the conversation can go. Some of us were going to finally, after the moon goes into Taurus, like that's when they're finally going to tell you everything that's gone wrong this last week. All you've been seeing is somebody else like in a buildup of emotion. You're like, what is wrong with you? And you've just been waiting all day. Waiting all week. Not all day, but all week. And then they finally lose their cool. That thing finally happens. And then at the end of the day, and after they've had some time to work out their frustrations, you can have that other conversation. You can tell somebody what happened. You can actually tell them how you feel. You can actually talk to them. We get a little bit more grounded again. A little bit more stable. The moon going into Taurus. We're over the suddenness from the week. A lot of the time, a lot of the energy from what has occurred, the sudden things, the abruptness, the build up to the entire week. Once we get into Saturday evening, I feel like the build up is done. The angst of the week doesn't feel as angsty. We know shit. We know something's there. We're more aware. We're able to have different conversations because this angst energy of like feeling like something was about to happen. In a lot of ways, it happened throughout the week. Saturday evening, we start to get a little bit more solid. We start to settle down a little bit more. But we also enter another wave of confusion. And this wave of confusion will not be like anything before. So we're going to keep going with the moon in Taurus. We're going to get into October. Hello, October. For a lot of people, this is the start of spooky season. For a lot of people, they think October 1st is the start of fall. It's not actually not. It was the start of Libra season. But that's okay. You want to wait a week, that's fine. I've already started to celebrate. Look at my flannels. I like these anyways, so whatever. We get into Sunday. We get into the 1st. The great thing about Sunday is there's not a lot of transits to it. The other thing about Sunday is we can kind of catch our breath. And some of us, we need to catch our breath. Now we are going to just kind of be chilling and vibing. We need to do something else. We need to decompress. We need to just do something that's going to help clear the energetic weight. So like we need to just work on things in the house, do some little honeydew things, nothing too crazy. Some of us, you got to work. I know some people work on Sundays. Some of us, we work 24/7. So whatever is going to be the best thing with you and for you. But we are feeling a lot closer to overcoming something, letting something go, or having something manifest as we get through the day on the 1st. Now, the moon's actually not going to make an actual transit until the evening time. And that is right here when the moon hits its conjunction to Jupiter. Now, this is going to go the most exact for me between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can see right here, I've got it at 8:25 p.m. The moon's at 14 degrees, 13 minutes. Jupiter's at 14 degrees and 20 minutes. So we're pretty close. Close enough for me. The other thing that's starting Sunday evening, it actually perfects on Monday, is Mercury and its opposition to Neptune. We're working on stuff all day. We're trying to do our honeydew list. Some of us, we're not doing anything. We're just doing some basic cleaning, make some foods, do some food prep stuff, whatever you guys like to do. We need to do those things that are more considerate to ourselves and considerate to other people. That's why I said the honeydews. Like I will knock out part of that list this weekend. I need to put my mind elsewhere anyways. Like, okay, babe, you do that. There is some things that we need to do that just stabilize us. Everybody has different ways that they stabilize themselves. Some people just need to meditate. When the moon makes its conjunction to Jupiter, it's like getting to the end of the day and knowing that something's happened all weekend, but we haven't wanted to talk about it quite yet because we needed to decompress. We needed time to process. We needed to go through our stages of grief or anger or whatever it was throughout this week. Part of us did a whole set of grief stages throughout Friday and Saturday. Went through all of them in 2 days. And now we're starting to talk about how we feel, what we hope we can do. Some of us are going to discover something that was unexpected, some type of luck energy. Some people are about to talk about what did happen in September. Now, the thing about Mercury's opposition to Neptune, and again, this is going to go more exact the 2nd, so next week. This is how we start the month. This is like the major transit of October that starts the month. There is a different element to this Mercury-Neptune energy than what happened in September. Beginning of the month, not in the beginning of the month, in August, right as Mercury was turning retrograde, Mars hit the opposition to Neptune. At the end of September, the Sun literally repeated the exact same transit pattern that Mars did. Hit the opposition to Neptune. It hit the trine to Pluto. Both Mars and the Sun went to 29 degrees of Virgo and squared the moon at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. There was an effect that happened the last few days of August that repeated in some way, but with more awareness because it was the Sun the second time, in that last little bit of September, right before we went into Libra season. Now, it's like talking about everything that has just happened. We start having the conversations. Mercury is opposite Neptune. How did we get to this point? How were you able to figure this out? How were you able to work through it? I just did my best. The moon's conjunction to Jupiter. I had hope. There was luck. I felt like it was the right thing to do. I felt like I was doing the right things for everybody. I feel like we're getting close to something. I feel like something's about to happen because something is. October. How did you know things were going to go that way? Because I felt it. I knew. There's a fortunate energy. Some people will, we had a rough week and we saw the medical effects again. And the moon's conjunction to Jupiter will be an arrival, like a late evening arrival. Sorry, my flight was delayed. Sorry, it took me longer to drive. Sorry, there was, it's a 2 days drive. We took a long time for the drive and it's an arrival. I wanted to get here sooner, but I couldn't. And it's restorative. Mercury's opposition to Neptune, we're able to talk about something. There can be a bit of a melancholic feeling that's starting to set in on Sunday evening. That's okay. If that happens, understand it's just the energy. Mercury, when it starts to hit that opposition to Neptune, it might be hard struggle. We might be struggling to believe what we're hearing. And that conversation, though, starts Sunday evening. And it leads us into where we're going to go in October. Stop share. There we go. I was like, make sure I didn't hit the wrong thing. There is something about this very last week of September that just launches October. What I've been saying for the last few weeks is we're getting closer to progress. We're making the first steps of progress. We're getting into the inklings of progress. And I've been saying that for weeks. That new moon in Virgo, turn it around. We got some progress coming. We're working towards it. We're taking some steps. Something activated last weekend going into this week. Whatever activated is like shifting in gear. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You slam on the gas and like Fast and the Furious type stuff. The speed picks up this week. The progression elements to the speed pick up this week. It's very easy whenever I say progression to think everything's going to be fun and good. And the thing is like everybody's progression is going to be 2 very different stages. And there is a disruptive energy to this week. We will experience disruptions, chaotic disruptions and pivotal disruptions. We will experience disruptions this week. A lot of it's going to be tied to the full moon. A lot of it's going to be tied into the energy leading up to the full moon. But there is something about this full moon that it's the gasoline. And it leads to the things that are going to happen. And there's a lot of rapid energy as we get into October. A lot of things are instigating. A lot of things are starting. A lot of things are starting to fall into place. A lot of things are starting to pick up. A lot of things are manifesting. A lot of things are coming to light. If we've done the right things and we are in alignment, intentions have been set for quite some time. And there is a manifestation energy that is coming. If you are not in alignment, going into this full moon is going to suck. If you are not in alignment, going into this full moon will start a very rapid energy towards alignment over the course of the next 60 days that follow. I'm saying 60 days loosely because we're still in September. At the time I'm recording this, we're still in September. I'm really saying until like November. I'm saying until after that Mars rebirth. Mars went over its rebirth degrees last week, before we got into this week. And that was a lot of internal activations. Once we got into the weekend, before this week started, there was a real life activation that happened to Sunday. And I maintain whatever happened last week led into the effects of this week. It led into the things that we needed to know and we needed to deal with. It led towards things in this week. There's a lot of energy coming through. After this week, Mars is going to hit its conjunction to the South Node. If we are not in alignment, we're going to feel the negative impacts going into October. It's like the first little bit is a foreshadowing or a forewarning. But if we are in alignment with where we're meant to go next, if we've been following the synchronicities and we've been following the path and we've been going correctly in our journey, there's going to be some manifestations. There's going to be launches forwards. There's going to be awakenings that start to happen after this week. Full levels of awareness that are going to start to come through. People that have been awake for a while, but they haven't been able to fully grasp certain things, their grasp will start to change in October. People have been resistant to everything. I don't like change. I don't like it. I don't like it. You didn't get a vote. Even if you did, there wasn't enough votes to go on your side. Because that old way of doing things, the old mindset, the old ideas, they don't apply anymore. They don't work with where we're going next. There are transitions in authority. There are transitions within the elders. People are ascending into where their new roles are going to be in life. Some of that is ascending into things within the family. New matrons, new mothers, new fathers, new families. We're going into a very bittersweet timeline. You're going to hear me say that a lot lately. There were 2 songs this week. One I kind of already mentioned, Ready or Not by the Fugees. And that was the one that I was hearing as I was meditating on the full moon in Aries. Just ready or not. That sets a good energy for where we're about to go. Whether you're ready for it or not, it's going to happen. Whether you're ready for it or not, we have to adjust. The universe said, move your ass. You can fight it all you want to. It always finds a way to move you anyways. If you lead into the synchronicities, if you lean into those hidden messages that come through, if you've been following those intuitive things, like I just feel like this isn't the right place for me anymore, this isn't the right thing anymore, I don't want to do this anymore. If you are actually leaning into that, then this week you see the start of new things. You see the opening to start the new things, not necessarily the full start. For some people, this full moon can be a level up. The start of a level up energy. For other people, cuts. We cutting things out. We letting things go. There will be cuts tied to the full moon. There will be cuts, breaks, relief, purge that will start to carry into that first week of October. If you've been questioning whether you're in alignment or not, I think you're going to have the answer by the end of this week. You'll know a lot more by the end of this week. There's a lot of energy coming. This is a very, very big and active week. And it's going to change the game for a lot of people. That can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. But if you're wondering if you're in alignment or not, oh, you're about to learn. We're all about to learn. It's going to be a fun ride. At least I think that. I always feel like anytime we have some change going on, but I'm very mutable. Very mutable. Change? I love change. Do change all day long. I do change. Yes. Change. Yes. Some of us are like that. We're good with change. Some of us not so much. Again, it comes down to where you're at in your own stuff, in your own path, in your own journey. Are you ready for change? Ready or not, it's coming. It's coming. I'll link the song in the description. I'll also link that Doja Cat song. I cannot think of the name of the song, but it was the one that kind of encapsulates like people purposely said things to cut the excess. They knew that it would lead to that. It's one of her newer songs, and I'll put that into the description also. But anyways, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the new people that are starting to tune in. Thank you for the people that share. Thank you for everyone that has been leaving comments. Again, if you see something in real life that kind of ties into this whole thing with the change in administration, the change in the supervisors, the change in businesses, the layoffs, I do feel like there's about to be some layoffs, man. That's going to be hot. And I don't, for some of those, that's going to tie into the strike stuff. For some of the people, it's going to be completely separate. Like, we're on the verge of things. Things are shaky. Things are shaky. And that's why we're all feeling so angsty. So if you see those things, I want the links. Like, send me the articles, send me your local news, major, whatever it is. I like those because they help me. They help me being able to see the patterns. And then later on, whenever I go back to those dates and I see those things again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how some of those things manifested out. Tell me your stories. Tell me how things manifest for you this week. I'll be asking the same thing at the end of October. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll talk to everybody soon. Subscribe.